George Russell is lashing out over what he sees as Formula One's growing dependency on qualifying and the opening lap to decide races. The Mercedes driver crossed the line in sixth place on Sunday, having slipped to that position at the start. With most of the grid locked into a one-stop strategy, there was little room for Russell or anyone else to shake up the order through strategic ingenuity. Max Verstappen once again reigned supreme in Austin, securing yet another win from pole position. It was the 13th time this season that the race winner has started at the very front, leaving only 6 Grands Prix where the script didn't follow that familiar pattern. Speaking to Sky Sports F1, Russell said, "Right now in F1, it's a race to turn one. There's no tyre degradation. There's only 3/10 between the quickest car and the slowest car in the top 6. Normally, you need at least half a second to overtake, so if I came out of turn 1 in P3, I'd have been on the podium today. But instead I came out in P6 and I finished P6. George Russell believes Max Verstappen's commanding victory at the United States Grand Prix wasn't a return to Red Bull's early season dominance, but rather the result of what he described as an abnormal move by Lando Norris at the start. The Mercedes driver had his eyes on a potential podium finish. But according to Russell, that opportunity vanished almost instantly due to the McLaren driver's actions in the opening moments. He explained, "I made a good start, but when Max covered Lando, I thought the normal thing to do would be for him to go to the outside to protect his position, and in turn he didn't. He just stayed behind Max. He got overtaken and it rocked me in and I got overtaken, so that was quite frustrating. But I had the feeling before the race, wherever you finish turn 1 is where you're going to finish. And unfortunately, this turned out to be the case." Russell argued that Verstappen's win in Austin was less about Red Bull rediscovering its unstoppable form, and more about circumstances playing in the Dutchman's favour. Downplaying suggestions that the Milton Keynes squad is back to its dominant best, he pointed instead to Norris's positioning off the line as the real catalyst. "Well, I mean, it wasn't like I was expecting them to be slow today. How much did he win by? In the end, 6 or 7. I think if Lando was there after lap 1, I think he would have been in the fight. And obviously we saw in my sprint race yesterday, I was maybe only half a tenth behind, so for sure, I wouldn't say they're the car to beat, but definitely as a package. But since the summer break, they're in an incredible place." Meanwhile, Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff had a very different perspective. Offering high praise for Verstappen as the reigning champion continues to close the gap at the top of the Formula One drivers' standings. Wolff commended both Verstappen's consistency and Red Bull's apparent resurgence over recent races. "Max is great, but I wouldn't be able to see whether any other driver can. They've just turned the car around, and that car is the most competitive at the moment. He's scoring the big points, and he's as good as it gets as a driver." The Austrian went on to say that the underdog in any title fight often carries a crucial edge, suggesting Verstappen's pursuit of Oscar Piastri could give him a psychological boost in the championship battle. Speaking to media, Wolff explained, "How this is panning out, I look at it with interest because I've been in a similar situation with 2 drivers fighting for a championship, and the threat of another one catching. It was Max, I believe, and then it was Sebastian Vettel in the hunt. And the underdog always has a little bit of a psychological advantage, because in the probability, the odds are definitely against Max. I've calculated his chances before. Whether it's 19% or 21%, it is something along those lines. But if you look at the probability, that's very low. One DNF can change everything, and I think that affects the driving also, how aggressive can you actually be in going for an overtake? George Russell insists he has no regrets over his risky move on Max Verstappen during Formula One's United States Grand Prix sprint race, describing it as his last chance to make something happen. On lap 8, the Mercedes driver spotted an opening as Verstappen began to struggle for grip. Sensing opportunity, Russell threw his car down the inside into turn 12 in a daring late-braking maneuver that sent both drivers slightly wide. The pair avoided contact, but Verstappen retained his lead and never looked back, while Russell's challenge faded after the attempt. Speaking to media, Russell said, "Yeah, obviously just stayed out of trouble at turn 1 and fought hard in those first laps after the safety car to try and get past Max. Obviously had half a chance. I knew that would probably be my last chance. So yeah, sent it. Obviously, just couldn't quite make the corner, but P2. When asked to elaborate on his thought process, Russell explained that with tyre wear rapidly becoming a concern, he knew that window to attack Verstappen wouldn't come again in the closing laps. I saw Max was struggling a little bit, and I was just giving it absolutely everything, he explained. I knew that I would probably deg a little bit more. Whereas when you're in the lead, you're probably trying to manage the tyres a bit better. He had a bit of a snap out of the previous corner, so I just thought, you know what? This is my only chance. There was a nice headwind in that corner, so I thought I could make it stick, but I was too far back. I'm glad I tried it, as opposed to just sitting there and still finishing in the same place. Later, the Brit expanded on his comments to the print media, explaining that tyre longevity has become the main culprit behind the lack of overtaking, a situation made worse by the razor-thin performance gap among the top teams. Red Bull, McLaren, Mercedes and Ferrari are all fighting for the same podium real estate, and in Austin, Q3 was a nail-biter. Just half a second separated Verstappen in first from Oscar Piastri in sixth. The thing is, now when there's no tyre degradation, there's no tyre delta, said Russell. Every track we go to, you need at least half a second to overtake. So that's why you're not seeing any overtakes. I don't even remember the last two-stop race. Still, Russell stopped short of criticizing Pirelli, acknowledging that the Italian manufacturer has created an impressively robust tyre, one that has ironically made one-stop strategies viable almost everywhere on the calendar. Pirelli get a hard time no matter what. There's lots of tyre degradation. People say it's not real. The drivers can't push. We have to manage. We don't like that when there's no tyre degradation. We say it's a boring race we want to see. But they don't seem to be able to win in any case. So, realistically, you want a tyre that you can push full gas, but it doesn't go the whole race. If you could choose the tyre, it's a tyre you can go flat out, but after 15 laps it falls off a cliff and you have to do a 2 or 3 stop race. Ideally, the soft tyre does 12 laps, the medium tyre does 15 laps, and the hard tyre does 20 laps, and then it falls off the cliff. But that is a lot easier said than done. Pirelli get a very hard time. They do their best. They have given us a substantially better tyre. Like, this tyre is very good, but it causes bad racing. Given that, Russell isn't expecting much to change over the final 5 rounds of 2025, Mexico, Brazil, Las Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi, before the sport ushers in a fresh set of regulations next year. When asked about the fight for second place in the Constructors' Championship after a strong outing from Red Bull and Ferrari, George replied with, "The result is a bad one for us today, but, as I said, I was 20 milliseconds off the front row on Saturday. Had I been that 20 milliseconds faster, I probably could have been on the front row, and if I could have held P2, I'm very confident I'd have finished second or third today. But all of us, we can only go as quick as the driver in front. And I think we all were expecting Lando to fly by Charles, who was on the soft tyre, the slower tyre, and he struggled a lot. When there's no tyre degradation, it's challenging. In your opinion, was George Russell's analysis a fair reflection of the race dynamics, or simply the frustration of a driver who failed to deliver? Let's discuss in the comments. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the latest in Formula One. Thanks for watching.